Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the second Maiden's tragedy, and we get to hear from the Tyrant King today in Act 4, Scene 3. Now, fair warning, things get disturbing in this scene. They've been a little bit disturbing up to this point, but they get fairly disturbing here. So if you want to tune out, feel free to do so. But the things that are going on in the Tyrant King's story, he took over this whole kingdom because he was in love with Lady, but she's in love with Gavainas, and when he tried to force her to be with him, she killed herself. And Gavainas had her put in a tomb in an honorable place in a church near where his father had been buried. And the Tyrant King in Act 4, Scene 2 decides that what he needs to do is go dig her up because he needs to see her again. He's so enamored of her and so distraught at the fact that she's gone that he needs to go and get her. So he has some soldiers get a pickaxe and some lanterns and the key to the church, and they all set off. And also Memphonius is concerned for the Tyrant King's mental health. In Act 4, Scene 3, we are at the cathedral, and the Tyrant King is like, okay, be quiet, we're in a church, we got to get in there. And the soldiers are like, yeah, I'm really uncomfortable being in a church. Like, I don't go to churches. Am I going to burst into flames when I walk in the door, kind of thing? And the Tyrant King says, the monument woos me. I must run and kiss it. Now trust me, if the tears do not e'en stand upon the marble, what slow springs have I? 'Twas weeping to itself before I came. How pity strikes even through insensible things, and makes them shame our dullness. Thou, house of silence and the calms of rest, after tempestuous life, I claim of thee a mistress, one of the most beauteous sleepers that ever lay so cold, not yet due to thee by natural death, but cruelly forced hither many a fair year before the world could spare her. We miss her mongst the glories of our court when they be numbered up. All thy still strength, thou grey-eyed monument, shall not keep her from us. Strike! Villain, through the echo, rail us all into ridiculous deafness. Pierce the jaws of this cold, ponderous creature. So he's talking to her tomb, and this could be, maybe she's buried below the floor of the church, so it might be just sort of like a marble slab that's ground level, or it could be a more ornate, thing that's like raised up on a pedestal right now, kind of however you want to stage that. But what he's saying now that they're in the church, he has to go and run and kiss this tomb because it holds her inside of it. And then he gets angry with the tomb. He's like, you're holding her. I come to claim her. I want her. You took her too soon. She was supposed to be around a lot longer, and we miss the fact that she's gone. So you, silly monument, are not going to hold on to her forever. And then he calls one of the soldiers and says, break this thing open. And the soldier who has the pickaxe is like, no, I'm really not comfortable doing that. So he takes the axe and he gives it to one of the other soldiers, and he's like, you do it. And he's like, no, I don't really want to do it either. I don't think any of us are comfortable with defacing a church. We don't come into churches anyway, and to come in and sort of destroy one, none of us is going to do it. So he shames them and calls them cowards, and he grabs the axe and he starts banging on the monument himself to break it open, and he makes some leeway, and then he's like, okay, take the stone off so that I can see her inside. And they're like, I've given women stones, but I've never taken a stone off of a woman, silly puns as they are digging up this woman. So they take the stone off, and he looks in and he sees her, and he's like, oh, you're so beautiful and you're so pale, but you still look lifelike. And things that would be romantic if they had been a couple in real life. A lot of it is very similar language to what Romeo says when he finds Juliet in the tomb. But this is a very different situation. She was so not into him that she killed herself to get away from him. So him saying all these things and, I'm here, your lover's here, stuff like that, it's really, really creepy to me. But he says all these things, and then he's like, okay, take up her body. And the soldiers are like, what? Like, no? And he's like, yeah, you're right. If she was still alive, none of you would be allowed to touch her, but pick her up and take us with. And they're like, well, we're kind of afraid that if we touch her, she's going to like come back to life and walk out herself. And he'd be like, wouldn't that be great? And they're like, this is getting like, maybe we just need to get this over with. And the Tyrant King is going to have another long monologue tomorrow to the corpse of Lady. So, sorry. Bear with it if you can. If you need to tune out, I totally get it. But yeah, we'll be done with this play in a couple days and then we'll move on to the next one. I'll see you tomorrow, maybe, for more. Mwah.